Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another fine Wednesday morning, and welcome to another coffee break chat. I'm your host, James Jackson, he, they pronouns, executive producer, Late Thief Productions. It's a gray and cloudy day here in the city of Philadelphia. Supposed to go up to a high of around 80, which is going to be just soup out there. But it's Philadelphia, so we go from winter to summer to spring, back to summer again, and we might have another dose of winter somewhere in here. I don't know. Just don't know what the weather's going to be like. Um, Interestingly, a recent survey of all the best places to live in the United States uh, found three Philadelphia suburbs to be some of the best places to live. But the main complaint was the weather. The weather was a ding on all three of the suburbs. Um, Anyway, got a great show for you today. It's the pursuit of gold that turns the goal of men into trash. Trans Day of Visibility, business records, and Alvin Bragg. Dine Latino Week, LSU, and Dr. Biden. And we have our special guest, Colby. I'm going to bring Colby on screen. Welcome. Please introduce yourself, your pronouns, and what it is you do.
Hi, I am Colby Calhoun, and I am the founding, I guess, sometimes you say artistic director, but I feel like we're all like co-artistic directors of Very Good Dance Theater, which is a queer-led, BIPOC-centered experimental dance theater performance group. Yeah, and I don't know, I always sort of quiver at the question of like what it is that I do, because I don't know. I make performance work. I just try to. I'm just really interested in being in space with people and sharing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I once, I have said several times, the pandemic was the worst for us theater folks because, like, that's our entire thing is like bringing
Ah,
large numbers of people into a small space,
yeah,
just to be together. And yeah, that was the worst thing for during the pandemic, right? Like, we couldn't do it. Um, but yeah.
yeah. I'm teaching dance class on Zoom for like 9 months. It was like really hard. It was really hard.
That's how I created this coffee break chat. Is I got sick of not like actually seeing people and talking just randomly about stuff. So we like I was like, hey, a couple of friends. I was like, hey, do you want to just get together on Zoom? And I'm gonna play with streaming software while we do it. And they were like, yeah, sure. So that yeah, we ended up with a coffee break chat. Um, at any rate, you have a show coming up. Tell us about the show, and I don't. Oh, there it is. The Other Gardeners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's yes. Again, I think it's like that extension of like, what is it that we're doing? But sort of it's based on this idea that I had sort of several years ago, I guess, that this idea that like this idea that after Adam and Eve are kicked out of the Garden of Eden, that there are still gardeners, the other gardeners that sort of have to pick up the slack and like bear the burden of cultivating the garden without the extra hands. And it was like in my playwright era, which I don't know if I've left, but it was just sort of a story that I wasn't interested in pursuing by myself. And so I kind of put it on the back burner until, it sort of felt right. And for whatever reason, it felt like this is the time to do it. And it's sort of very explicitly, but also vaguely around the themes of like Black trans liberation and finding our joy and our peace and sort of exploring what burdens I guess are placed on us by others and how we can shoulder those burdens together or not shoulder them on purpose. But it's experimental dance theater. We're doing whatever we want, really, which I think is the theme of the show. It's not just about like finding liberation, but like trying to liberate ourselves from like what do people want to see, or like how do we perform this smartly, or you know. So I'm excited for it. It still is. We open tomorrow night and we run through the weekend. Um, and it's evolving every day. So
Awesome. Where is it at?
it's at the Moss Building as part of the Mini Ball Festival, which is like the smaller festival for the Cannonball Festival that happens in the fall during Fringe. But yeah, it's like 6 shows. We're one of the 6 shows, and there's a lot of stuff happening over at the Moss Building.
Awesome.
It's like, yeah, pretty cool.
I love the Moss building. I've done a number of projects there, and it's always really pretty. Just to be in that space. Yeah, yeah. Like that's the kind of stuff. Like it's the kind of space where like it makes you want to like just be cozy. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why.
yeah, I know. I love the space. I love a little room, a little DIY moment,
Yeah.
a little stand in a room and cry.
um, what would you say folks would most likely want to see the other gardeners to experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I I think what people might get out of it. Yeah, I think there is like if you are interested in Black trans people doing art on their terms, by them, for them, then come see that. If you're interested in um an experiment, an experiment in a like factual queering of the way that we present ourselves through art, get into that. If you like Patti LaBelle, come to the show. Yeah, and if you want to experience, I think it's really crafted around like not just showing something to the audience for them to consume or to like passively watch, but is about inviting them into an experience that questions how we get liberated, and what that joy, what that liberation looks like, and if it still exists, right? Like if our gardens of Eden are not actually abolished, but just obscured, and do they exist in our lives in little ways somewhere?
Right. Do you feel like your Garden of Eden exists?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I don't know if I could do the show if I didn't think so, right? But I think it is really hard, especially now when like there is lots of anti-trans legislation, and has continued to be. Like I'm from Dallas, where we did a show one summer in which we listed off, like we started rehearsal in June, and it was like there was this part where we listed all the names of the Black trans women that had died that year. And by the show in July, we had added like 12 names, and 8 of those were trans women from Dallas. And so like I have had firsthand contact with being in a really scary place. And I think a lot of times it's easy for someone in my situation, or someone from the communities that I'm a part of, to be like, this is terrible, and we're lost. And like
It's it's
knowing
it's always additive, right? Like it sometimes it can
it's
feel just like yeah, like it's
it's
never
always one
ending.
thing after another.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think really through this show, and sort of in making the show with my stage partner Micah Latt, is like realizing that like those little moments of liberation is like, sitting at the bar and laughing at a dumb joke, or like sitting in rehearsal and making fun of ourselves, or just like those little moments of joy exist even amongst all the pressure and the truly awful, terrible, like dangerousness that it is to be us. Like I think it is so beautiful that in spite of all of that, there are still these like very organic, hopeful, joyful moments that feel very small, that feel like nothing, but are actually sort of like constitute the fact that we are continuing, the fact that we're still here.
I think some relatively big, like, kind of. I think this is kind of where the concept of karma came from,
Mhm.
and some relatively big karmic moments have been happening lately. Though, yeah, there's all these little ones, but it's nice. One of the nice things that happened earlier this week, a judge in Texas ordered that public libraries had to return books to the shelves that had been banned
Oh,
because of LGBTQ content or black content. Like, seriously, like, they're just like pulling 1940s Germany shit on us.
yeah, I
Like,
know.
what is that?
It's not crazy. Like, what year is it? It's wild.
It is. It is. It's completely astounding. I know how does that happen? Um, yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. DeSantis, banning books all over Florida from schools. And this was interesting to me. DeSantis apparently got so much kickback for his "Don't Say Gay" bill, and the fact that it like literally caused teachers to pull all the books out of their classrooms and libraries all over Florida. And he got so much pushback that he went on a spree of saying it was fake news, like that the law didn't say
When
what
it
it
would,
says.
and it did.
Yeah. Like how these teachers aren't just randomly. Unfortunately, some of them are getting fired for posting pictures and stuff. Like that's how I realized that this was going on. There was a teacher recently fired in a school district in Florida because they posted a picture of empty bookshelves that they had emptied because the law that DeSantis signed says that all books have to be reviewed for content that may be offensive, and that they can't have the books on the shelves unless they've been reviewed. Well, if they haven't been reviewed, they can't be on the shelves, and if they can't be on the shelves, and there hasn't been time to review them yet, the shelves are obviously going to be empty. But yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
the nice thing about the Texas order is that the judge ordered that the his order took precedence immediately, and then the case is still ongoing to figure out whether or not
Mhm.
Texas can actually ban these books. But it's unlikely that they have any sort of way of banning these books. These cases have been through multiple rounds of going to the Supreme Court, and even with the conservative Supreme Court, it's unlikely that they overturn that much precedence.
Yeah.
It's,
Maybe there's hope for Texas.
maybe.
Maybe. I know. Well, because I think about that also. It's like the show that we're doing now, I don't think I ever could have done in Texas. Like at all. I think a lot of the work that I was doing in Texas, especially in Dallas, is like they're like, whoa, you're pushing it a little too much. And like we were not pushing it far enough. But like in this show, it's like we're
Well,
like fully nude at some parts, like doing whatever is bringing us joy. And like the Cannonball people are like, yeah, it sounds great. Do it.
yeah, no,
Like,
no. Yeah, I've interviewed the Cannonball folks, and they're like, yeah, it's theater, it's plays. Let's do it. Like, what do you want to say?
yeah, yeah, literally. They're like, yeah, please. Because I was like, would it be bad if we were like naked almost the whole time? They're like, no, you should be. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, so, makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about theater, and especially Philly theater, is that it's really open to your expression, whatever it needs to be. And so it's good I feel it's good. I hope you're enjoying that you've transplanted here
I
from the
am.
Dallas area.
Yeah. It's
Um,
good feels sometimes like I'm a refugee because I'm still like, you can't do that. And they're like, no, it's normal. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. That's fine.
Well, I don't know if you've experienced the other half of that coin, which is sometimes Philly residents can be like, you don't do that, you don't do that around here. You're not from Philly.
Well, yeah, I get a lot of you're clearly not from Philly. The other day at work, I was like, what's the Wi-Fi in this, John? And they were like, you're not from here. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm trying. Or I keep
Yeah.
saying y'all. People are like, what is y'all? Stop saying that. I'm like,
I
no,
say y'all.
y'all.
I've been
Everybody
in the
says
Northeast
y'all.
for I've been in the Northeast for like most of my life. I say y'all.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's you might
Interesting.
have a little bit of drawl to it though. I work the drawl out. I grew up all over the East Coast. I lived in North Carolina for a time. That's where y'all came from.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I used to have a little bit of a drawl to it, and now I just say y'all as a thing. But I do that more in writing than in vocal. When I'm saying stuff, I usually say folks
Mm,
or people. Yeah.
I'm a big y'all girl. I love-
um. Another thing that recently happened that this conversation just made me think of. Tennessee has that law that they just passed,
yeah.
which is a very clearly targeted anti-trans law, and you couldn't do this show in Tennessee.
No, yeah. I mean, literally, right? And I like my first thought, which is something like similar, right? Like when the pandemic happened, all the theater people were like, we have no job. But like a lot of my friends are drag performers who also immediately had no job. And like my first thought is like, what are the gay bars gonna do? What are the drag queens gonna do?
Right.
Like, right. And I think like immediately there are people is like, we're doing the show anyway. I'm like, rip, like
Yeah, I mean, I would I haven't done it because there's no law like that here. But there's a comedian who Steve Hofstetter, who lives in Tennessee, and recently did a show in a dress, not as a trans person or as a drag queen. He just did it as a guy in a dress because the law is written so broadly. They changed their obscenity law to make it obscene, uh, inclusive of everything that it used to say, plus male or female impersonators who provide entertainment that appeals to the purient interest or similar entertainers, regardless of whether or not performed for consideration. Um, that means like it doesn't have to be. It's now obscene just to be a male or female impersonator. And
which
male or female impersonator is not defined. Like, am
yeah, like what is that?
am I a female impersonator because I have long hair? Does that make me a female impersonator? I don't know. Steve Hofstetter is a comedian, and he has short hair and a short beard, and he just dressed in a dress. He's like, does this make me a female impersonator?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's like, and the thing that's so weird is that like this is like an actual conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it seems like an SNL skit to me, like
It does.
such a joke. And the line does not end, like it's clearly trans targeted, but like, okay, once you eradicate us and exterminate us, then the law still exists. Like they're coming after whoever else next. Like, hello.
Well, as the thing said, one of the memes I saw recently said it's not about. It was never about the water fountains, just as it's not about cross dressing right now.
It's just like, yeah, I don't know. It is like wildly bizarre to me, and I know that obviously I come from a different perspective and a different brain, but it's like, how on earth, how does this like how do we get this bad, especially in a time where it's like we were talking about this on Trans Day of Visibility. It's like sometimes maybe I'm too visible. Like maybe stop looking at me and let me do whatever I'm doing. Stop, like,
Um,
visualize some support for
I
me and
I
just
I I would say that Trans Day of Visibility is the opportunity to say that trans people should be visible without being the center of attention.
yeah, without you're so brave. Like
Right.
I'm just trying to go get myself a bagel. I I'm I'm literally on my way to McDonald's. Please,
Just
please.
yeah, I just have a hat on and I'm in some basketball shorts. Would you just like
I literally just look good. I don't know what to say.
I always, I always wonder, and also, like I'm obviously a masculine presenting person. I always wonder, like, what makes people assume that they know what gender I am.
Right?
I don't, or if I ever was a different gender, or if I'm cis at all, like what makes people assume that? Like, what makes people assume that I would go by he and him pronouns, that kind of thing. It's an interesting part of the conversation that has begun to become relevant, and it's nice that it's become relevant because we're refining through these conversations. We're refining like how people interact with each other in a polite society. Like polite society used to mean like you don't offend anybody else. Now, but what it really is you shouldn't do things to offend other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think about that a lot. When I was in school, one of my professors, she was talking about and this like blew my mind, but also it was like just kind of like very basic. And she was like, well, like I'm a woman and I'm a cis woman, but there's like no authentic way for me to like perform that to people. I just like do my hair pretty and wear dresses because I've been told that's how I perform femininity. But like that isn't the truth. That is not like the textbook way to truly perform femininity. We've just been taught that that's it. But like nothing about a dress is inherently feminine. Nothing about long hair is inherently feminine
Right.
on its own. And so yeah, I think about that a lot, especially like doing like this performance nude. I think about that a lot because like I think like having a trans body, whatever that means, is like very difficult, and like this like stripping away all forms of like external performance and like being naked is like very shocking. But then I guess probably I'm estimating after like the first 5 minutes, people be like, okay, they're naked. We're moving on. And then it's like, but isn't that the whole thing? It's like, what's RuPaul say? We're all born naked and the rest is drag. Um, so it's like, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation in and of itself that you're having with the audience, through just the in being in the space. I mean, that's what's valuable about theater, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. We've talked briefly about Trans Day of Visibility. It just passed. I don't remember the
Last
date.
Friday, I think.
Last Friday.
That true?
You could be right. It came and went very quickly for me because I didn't get like all the lead up to it. I just noticed all my friends posting, "Hey."
Hello. Can you see me today?
It's not Trans Day of Invisibility. No.
I know.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes up is Trans Day of Revenge. I like that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was Friday the 31st.
Awesome. It's I think it is interesting to have that as a conversational moment. I don't know. I don't know that that we don't get. I guess my question would be like, it's not directed at you, but it's directed kind of at the nebulous people who are pushing for things like the Don't Say Gay bill and the anti-trans book bans, that kind of thing. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, what exactly is
Exactly.
what is your issue? Like, like a lot of quote unquote Christians will say, oh, like, I don't hate this sinner, I hate the sin, I want this to, I want to make sure that your soul is taken care of, etc. God put it on me to talk to you. I hate that one. First of all, if you're hearing somebody tell you to talk to me, you should probably not listen.
Yeah. Let's think, honey. Let's Yeah, I mean, I think about that a lot too. It's like, what is scaring you, right? And then of course it's like a lot of it is like these people who are having deep, tumultuous like gender and sexuality journeys have nothing to do but to then reject them and then reject them on such a large scale that they reject them for everybody else.
that,
I
that's what it is, really, right? It's just
Right.
like,
But even beyond that, I think there is something like about being queer where you are forced to reckon with how you are performing your identity. You're forced to reckon with how you're crafting yourself. And like while that is like a huge burden, there is something like very beautiful and super powerful about that. And so of course, people who don't need that or don't want that are like, you got something there and I don't like it. I mean, people, maybe if I had things, I would understand, but I hope not. But people, who hoard things, resources, and power, of course, they don't want people to have what they have. They're having a great life.
well, that comes down to the zero sum game mentality that it's a very patriarchal driven
Yeah.
mentality. Like, the world is not a zero sum game. Like, if I get something doesn't mean that you don't get it. Like, I've always said this about theater production, especially here in the city of Philadelphia, we're, like the fourth poorest city in the nation, and we're the biggest one that's that poor. And so a lot of the art production relies on grants and loans and gifts. Um, and some of the bigger arts organizations treat it as a zero sum game. They treat it as like a pot of money that's never going to grow. You have to get the as much of it as you can, and any other organization that gets any of it means that your organization didn't get some that they were eligible for. And that's not
Mhm.
true. Like, the more art we produce, the effects of producing good art in the city are seen, and the more ROI you get, the more money the city is going to invest in it, the more the people are going to invest in it and appreciate it and come see it, and it just grows. It's self-growing.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, we know that to be the truth, but I think eh, this is what got me in trouble in Dallas. But I think especially looking at these like bigger nonprofit like service organizations, which is what they're classified as, but like the problem is that like the merit that of what they do comes from this like huge platform, from this huge pool of resources, and it is not often not based in like the true like community building, the true service, the true like talent and craft and magic of what's happening that's manufactured through access. And so of course they like don't want to share that, because when what you have is built upon dollars and cents, when that gets evenly distributed to others, it's like, well, damn, what are we gonna have if everybody else has resources? It's like, I guess you'll have to learn how to tell a story. You'll have to care about people. You'll have to try something new, God forbid.
It's funny because I don't know that it's a conscious thought process that but it's true.
Or
I don't know that like I've worked with and know a lot of the producers and production staff for larger companies, and I don't think any of them would think of themselves as that way in that way. But
yeah.
also, it's very true. Like, there's something subconscious about that when you're coming from a place where you subconsciously realize that you're kind of manufacturing this community storytelling, and it's not really community storytelling, where you're like making DEI statements and you don't actually have any way or desire to follow through on them,
Yeah.
other than I get hired every February for at least one lighting design. I've traveled like most of the country now because I get hired every February. um, you
Right.
know.
It's like, oh, let's do one black show a year and then we'll put a bunch of gay people in it. It's diverse. Okay. Leave us alone. And I feel like it is better here in Philly, but like that's the Dallas staple. God, it was so bad.
It is a little bit better here in Philly. There are black. Recently, somebody posted, and I don't have the name off the top of my head, and I apologize to them. But somebody posted that there are in this month, of April, there are five major shows being produced at five different production companies by five different black directors,
We
which
love that.
is excellent. And I think that's amazing. And most of those shows are new works by black writers, um, which is interesting as well. Um, what else were we going to talk about? Dine Latino. There's a large Latino population here in the city of Philadelphia. There's a huge Latino population in the city of Dallas, I
Yeah,
would suppose. And
definitely.
yeah, so we have Restaurant Week, which just wrapped up. We have Theater Week, and now we have Dine Latino, which is uh, Latino Restaurant Week, basically. There's several organizations or several companies participating in Dine Latino. There's also, if you ever want to dine on authentic Latino or Mexican, Central American, South American food, just come to South Philly, right around the Italian market, which is still called the Italian market, even though it's not primarily Italian any longer. There's more. It's a mix of Mexican, Central and South American owned restaurants, and then Vietnamese. There's a lot of Vietnamese restaurants as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
One diversity.
but yeah, so for Dine Latino, that started at the beginning of this week. We're halfway through it. I didn't make a special broadcast for it, but yeah, consider going out to a fine establishment owned and operated by some of our Latino restaurateurs.
Yeah.
Um, are you a big basketball fan?
No,
Oh, yeah, me neither.
not a
Um,
sports girl.
So I'm catching. I never cover sports on this show, but I thought it was important to go into this. LSU had LSU, the college, had a women's basketball Title IX tournament final competition against Iowa State, I believe it was. Let me pull it up. just so I'm sure I'm talking about the right thing. At any rate, Jill Biden, Dr. Biden, yeah, Iowa State.
Oh, I saw
Um,
about this on Twitter.
yeah, that's where I get a lot of my stories. Dr. Biden said Monday that she wanted Iowa to join the LSU basketball team that won the title for their White House visit. That would be the first time ever that a losing team in a national competition has been invited to the White House. And it follows the in game controversy where Angel Reese, the LSU, the lead player for the LSU team, um, was accused of being too black, being non-sportsmanlike, being angry, etc. When she did this gesture to the Iowa team's lead player. I forget her name. Oh, Caitlin Clark. Apparently, Caitlin is like a darling of the women's basketball white contingent. All the white folks watching women's basketball are enamored of Caitlin's skills, and she does have
But she lost.
skills. She does have skills. She's white, but she has skills. She's scored. She beat the scoring record for both men and women in college basketball in the last 7 games of this season. She scored more than any previous player, and she's just a high scorer. She gets the ball a lot and she scores a lot. Um, so during the game, uh, before Angel did that gesture, um, Caitlyn had done that gesture, not at a specific player, but just had done that gesture, and nobody's exactly certain why. But Angel took that as a gesture at her team, like a "you don't see me, I'm blind," like I'm invisible, I'm awesome, kind of gesture, and Caitlin Clark hasn't made any statements about it, but the assumption is that she's a high scoring player. She's very aggressive. That's probably what she was saying with that gesture. She just, was just being egotistical in the moment. But the nobody came down on her for making that same gesture.
Yeah,
Um, and then Jill Biden follows it up by saying she wants to invite both teams to the White House. This is
I- Jill, what?
right. I mean, like,
It's like she lost. Sorry.
first of all, LSU is a primarily black team. Most of the
Yeah,
teammates are black. Iowa State is primarily white. Most of the teammates are white. The lead for the two teams couldn't be more disparate. One's a little suburban white girl. The other is a black city urban girl. She came from Baltimore. She played for Baltimore until her junior year, and she's now in her senior year. Um, so like this black girl, Angel Reese, managed to lead her team to a win versus this white girl, who comes from a primarily white institution, and then Joe Biden goes, "Hey, why don't you both come to the White House?" What?
it's equality.
That's equality. I've seen a lot of tweets like, "Oh, ultimate. That's the ultimate participation trophy." Yeah, it is. It's like, hey, did you,
Yeah,
like,
just why have the game? Should have just invited both of them anyway.
great, great. Anyway, yeah, I.
Like when RuPaul saved some girl on Drag Race that we knew needed to go home in the first place. Hey, keep her then, I guess. We don't want her, but you know,
It's the producers in that case. The producers are like, oh, yeah, we need the controversy, so let's
like we need somebody to be the worst here, please.
yeah, so that we can show like I don't know the validity of this. Like I can never decide whether it's valid or not. The validity of contrast, like I know some of the best things happen when there is contrast, but like without the presence of the worst, like the theory goes without the presence of the worst, that you can't see how good the best is. I don't know the validity of
Yeah, I mean, I think that the problem lies in that there like has to be a best. You know what I'm saying? It's like okay, especially it's like when we think about how we're like we're supposed to be working together, or like what's everybody's favorite buzzword? Collaboration.
that. Hmm.
I mean, it's like, okay, if we're playing a game and it's sports and like the rules are you put the ball in the basket and then you get a point, and then whoever does that more times wins, great. But if like the thing is like subjective, like how are you expressing yourself? Like, is anybody the best at that?
Hmm.
You know, it's like, is Beyonce an icon? Yes, obviously. She's very talented, very great at what she does. Can people not like Beyonce? I guess so. Do I agree with that? No, but it's like I'm like I don't need people to be bad for me to know Beyonce is good.
Right. Yeah, you don't need Yoko Ono to know that Beyonce works.
Yeah, I don't need Swifties to know that the Beehive is better. Just kidding. Nobody don't. It was a joke.
It's jokes, folks. It's a
I
joke.
know they'll find it and it'll go with.
You'll be all right. Nobody will find it. It'll be fine. Speaking of finding it, and interestingly tied into all of this conversation, so Joe Biden was ramping up to announce a nomination for the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Orleans. Um, the problem with the nomination then and what is happening now is that the Biden team is ramping up that same nomination to try and get it through Congress. They never followed up on the nomination. They never nominated this woman, Kiva Landrum. Kiva Landrum has she's a very powerful black woman, very good, I guess, at her job. But when you're considering that the job is basically prosecutorial, you get the problem of the fact that she's had a history of civil rights violations. That have never been dealt with by the administration or and would normally tank this nomination for U.S. District Attorney. Um, she's done things like she was literally prosecuted with other judges for illegally jailing poor people in New Orleans. And if they couldn't pay court debts, they created a collections department within the court system to illegally collect on those debts. So just so that people understand, yes, you can incur court debt. The worst thing that a court can typically do to you that is legal is put out a bench warrant for your arrest and ask the police to bring you in front of the judge so that the judge can then say, hey, you owe us a lot of money, and figure out how to take care of that. Beyond that, they're not really allowed to do anything. They're not allowed to hold you in contempt for not paying it. They're not allowed to jail you for not paying it because the access to money is not part of our legal system. You don't need access to money to be able to remain not imprisoned. That's just the way it is. And so Landrum and other New Orleans judges basically violated the 14th, 4th, and a bunch of other amendments of the Constitution by jailing people and then trying to skirt those violations by saying that they weren't jailing them because they couldn't afford to pay, but that they were jailing them for other reasons. Um, and a case was filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office against Landrum and other New Orleans judges. Several judges lost their positions, but Landrum survived, basically, and is now being nominated to be part of that same team that prosecuted her. Um,
Isn't that funny?
yeah, I find this fascinating, and you know, like, I have a couple of friends who are very, you know, like they're like, you know, both sides are bad, etc. This is one of the, you know, like this is one of those instances where critical race theory actually comes into it. There is a system here. It's very systemic. It is systemic theft of resources, money, and manpower from the black community in New Orleans that has led to a poor black community in New Orleans. It's the same thing in Philadelphia. Even though we've had generations and generations of black leadership in Philadelphia, there is a history, a systemic history of stealing, literally stealing money and manpower and resources from the black community. I don't, how do we proceed without, you know, without critical race theory? How do we proceed? And
Yeah, I mean, right. And I can't say this is surprising because it's like very in line with like Kamala's career because she's a huge cop. And so, and she's like really proud of that. Gotta love her. That's my vice president. Um, but it's like, and if I'm trying to like be, I'm trying to be open-minded and like understand, like I understand exactly where it comes from to have to like claw and scrape your way to the top and like get through the gates that were gate kept from you. But what I can't understand then to be like, oh, it was so hard for me to get here, and then like closing the gate behind you and like snipping the ladder and being like, sorry y'all, hope you die down there. You didn't do it, but I did. Like, be blessed.
be blessed.
Right. It's like, hello, babe. Like, yeah. And so there is this like very disgusting thing where it's like people who are not white but serve whiteness know that they will get rewarded. And so, you know, they chase that. But it's like, babe, the first person to go, right? If there's some Biden administration scandal, babe, Kamala, I hate to break it to you, but I would not be surprised if you were, she's not listening to me, but babe, you're the scapegoat.
You're the one, yeah, and she's already the scapegoat. You know, like there's already, you know, conservatives that are like, oh, this Biden administration would be great if it didn't have this black woman in it. Or
right?
like, you know, like this black woman is completely unqualified for her position, even though she's doing exactly what the Biden administration wants.
Exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, no, she's supposed, y'all like cops, right? That's her. Please, what? She's doing everything you want. Yeah, it's like it's so bizarre. So then it's like, okay, now we don't want you and they don't want you. So what? So what now? Right. But then I guess, yeah, of course they're like back there still stealing and robbing resources from their own people because they're like, well, now nobody wants me. Guess I gotta have a mansion.
That brings up like the Black Lives Matter thing where the CEO of the organized Black Lives Matter nonprofit
Um,
the funneled a lot of money her own way. Uh,
yeah, that's nonprofits are where dreams go to die. Um,
how else do we do stuff though?
yeah, I don't I have lots of ideas. I have lots of, but I don't know the thing that's so hard about it, right? Or like people who think this, I've seen this on my Twitter a lot, like or like now AOC has a TikTok and now all the TikToks are talking about like AOC done switched up and like she can't fight it from the inside. It's like, yeah, baby, you really can't fight it from the inside because the structures are not made to be fought. Like, right. And so the solutions that I have or that like abolitionists have had for years are so radical that people are like, well, I would lose everything. It's like, yeah, babe, you don't really have anything right now
Well,
anyway.
it's like it's the defund the police conversation, but about everything.
Yeah, about literally everything.
Like abolish the police is actually what abolitionists mean. They don't
Like,
mean
get rid of it.
yeah,
Yeah, like
they mean abolish the police. Like it's not something that's hard to explain. It means get rid of the police department. It's not something that's hard to explain. And even when you look at it from like when you learn about the perspective, it's not hard to understand either. The police from the viewpoint of abolitionists don't do anything for the community, so why not get rid of them?
yeah.
Um,
But it's, people get really attached. They, feel a safety in the things that they know to be true, even if they're like, well, it's not working, but at least it's something. It's like, no, babe, it is not something. It's actually worse than something. It's awful. It's nothing would be better.
mhm, mhm.
At least in that absence, where we can rebuild, right? Like, I don't know, but
It's funny. This morning, the police union of Chicago tweeted that if the
although,
likely winner wins the mayoral race for Chicago, that 100,000 was it? No, it wasn't 100. That's too many.
8,000 to 10,000.
10,000 cops were going to resign. Was that it?
I saw somebody retweet it with the Judge Judy gif that's like tapping on her.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
go. Let me find this. I just want to find the actual article so I can quote it correctly. There we are. Chicago Police Unit President says 800 to 1,000 officers may resign if Brandon Johnson wins the mayoral race.
Do it.
Okay.
Okay, we're waiting.
Um, I mean, we weren't going to invite you, but since you
Yeah.
invited yourself,
If you say so, go off. Go off, Queen.
um, uh, uh, so just going on from there to other things that people are saying that make no sense. Um, Philadelphia mayoral race. The news this week was that Jeff Brown, the mayoral candidate, who is he's not had any experience in government. He's the owner and operator of several ShopRites in North Philadelphia and also the suburbs. He had dropped the word lynch into a sentence, saying that if black people in Philadelphia reviewed the actions of some of his opponents for the mayor's race, that they would lynch his opponents. Um, if you don't
How?
know, Jeff Brown is a white guy, and dropping Lynch into a sentence isn't something you should do, even if you were in a spelling bee. You just shouldn't. Like,
That it was too at home in his vocabulary.
yeah. um,
How wild.
in any other place or time, that would probably end his candidacy, but he's one of the three top front runners, and so it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up. I mean, we've got a year left, a little bit more than a year left to this mayor's race. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Um, but yeah. Another couple little things I wanted to cover: Alvin Bragg and the business records lawsuit he's bringing against Donald Trump. It is a felony in the state of New York to file records with the state of New York that falsely indicate things about your business. The state of New York, for large businesses, requires you to file financial bookkeeping records. If you're an entrepreneur or somebody who works for themselves and does 1099s and seeks things like, loans, which I do, you have to keep records. You have to keep books. You have to show people, the money coming in and going out, and also for taxes. You have to take the records and say, hey, this is what I made. This is what I spent. So I only actually made this much, which is not as much as I brought in. And you have to tell the state and the federal government, like, why. So in the state of New York, it's illegal to falsify those records. And what Alvin Bragg is saying is that former President Trump, I love saying it that way, decided to file false records. He himself committed a felony by falsifying records, and that he has evidence that shows that he was part of the decision to take a payment going to several women who were accusing him of having extramarital affairs, and classify those payments as legal expenses to lawyers that he hired. It's completely legal to write off legal expenses as part of a business. I do it. Everybody else who has a business that keeps track of that sort of thing does it. What's not legal is to say that your payment to your mistress is a legal expense. You could actually, if it was a business expense, like if you wanted to, like if you needed to hire your mistress as a model for a day, you could write it off that way.
He's just not smart. I feel bad for him. I don't think he can read.
I don't think you can actually read either. If you've seen any of the episodes of him testifying in court where he has to read something, it's really bad.
Somebody was like, yeah, there's like 37 counts. I was like, he can count to 37? Okay.
Well, he can falsify 37 documents or order them falsified. Anyway, and then I wanted to let everybody know it's April. This is April 5th. Today is April 5th. You have 10 days to file your taxes. If you haven't started working on your taxes, might be time to file an extension, especially if your taxes are complex. If they're easy enough, file them before the 15th. Please, dear God, avoid the penalties. And then also, it's April. So street cleaning has begun in the city of Philadelphia. If you had signs pop up on your block in the last year over the winter that there's street cleaning on certain days of the week, there is street cleaning, and they're going to start issuing tickets, which is why I need to wrap up the show very momentarily, because it's street cleaning day on my block. So that's our show for the day. Colby, do you have any last thoughts? Any things for people to consider? Anything that you want people to know about?
No, just love the trans people that give Black people money, if you're not Black or if you're Black and rich, and come to our show. And love y'all.
Along with give black people money, I'm bringing up on screen so you can see it too. But I'm gonna do a run of these T-shirts because I'm sick of people saying that there's these agendas that don't actually exist. But the T-shirt says in small print, in case you can't read it on your screen, "Proud member of the," and then Black, Queer, Inclusive, Woke, Progressive agenda, and it has the Late Thief Productions logo on the back. Um, I just and I'm actually willing to allow other companies to use this design with their logo. I just ask that you contact me, and I will toss your logo on this same design, and let you have it printed and sold. I think that there are a lot more of us out here that support blackness, support queerness, support inclusiveness, support wokeness, support progressivism. I think there are a lot. I was saying to somebody, a friend of mine was questioning why I would say it that way, because I put the proud member of the agenda, why I would say it's an agenda when it's not an agenda. And I was like, it's kind of the point, like there's all these things that conservatives or people who are worried about things like this claim to be some sort of agenda or some sort of politics, and they're not politics. It's just there's enough of us out there that are moving in the same direction,
Mhm.
because it's the direction that we should be moving. It's not like we're all out here collaborating and going, "Hey, do you want to be cool today?" It's just like I'm not afraid of somebody else being trans. I'm not as afraid of somebody else being a man in a dress or a
Yeah,
woman in a dress. Like, why do I care?
literally. That's my agenda. It's
that's
like
that's my agenda. Why do I
trying to hang
care?
out.
All right. Thank you, Colby. Thank you for being our guest today. Um, I'm gonna go to a one up of me, and feel free to hang out for a moment if you'd like to chat after. And I'm gonna just transition out of the show, and I welcome you back on the show anytime you'd like to join us. Please feel free. So thank you so much for joining us. And there's me. And thank you to the audience for joining us. I really appreciate that you guys join us every week. It's a small broadcast, but it's an effective broadcast, and lots of people watch it. I noticed that a lot more people watch it in rerun than watch it live. But please, we're out here live. We get up early in the morning so that we can bring you this show. Um, feel free to watch it live. Watch it in replay. If you're watching it live or in replay or anytime at all, hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. That'll let you know when we go live. We're on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Um, if you subscribe to us on any of those places, it'll let you know when we go live. It'll give you a notification. You can watch right then. You can watch in replay. Please share it with your friends. If you see something that you think is cool, you see information about a show that you want to go to, share that segment with your friends. Send them a link. Send them a moment to watch the show. And if anybody would like one of my agenda T-shirts, it's sort of a joke, but also something I'm actually considering having printed up. So if you would like an agenda to be part of the agenda, please feel free to get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us on any of our social media platforms, and we'll be happy to figure out how to get you one of those T-shirts. At any rate, if you like what you see, drop by our Patreon, patreon.com/Late Thief Productions. Consider supporting us that way. or buy a T-shirt. It's hey, whatever, if you want to. And join us again next week. We'll have more topics of the day. We will have, I mean, it's been a busy couple of weeks. We might delve back into some things that we've gone over. And we'll be talking with Penny Bean from Fever Dream Repertory about the Book of Will. So please join us again next week and have a great week, rest of your week, everybody.